Welcome back. I'm Richard Hosnaut, and I'm your host for the Wisdom Inspired Life podcast, with listeners in over 70 countries and this Wisdom Inspired Life YouTube channel. Great to be with you. As you know, I'm on a journey that I made clear in the very first episode of this to inspire people to be more caring and compassionate, to help meet the needs and challenges that we face. In the course of that, we start living a more wisdom-inspired life. And as I've done in some other episodes, since the word wisdom is such a crucial part of what I'm trying to do here, and I'm talking about living a wisdom-inspired life and exactly what is wisdom. So I'm going to come at it, I've come at it from certain directions in previous episodes, and I'm going to come at it from a little bit different direction this time. And in this particular time, what I'm doing is I'm going to do it by comparing wisdom with knowledge. And there are major differences between wisdom and knowledge. And I want to be very clear also that the word wisdom in our culture often has two contexts, if I can use that word. One is a more general impression that wisdom means somebody that's lived a long life, they've acquired a lot of understanding and skills and capabilities and all this sort of stuff, and they use their wisdom to do a particular job to help people, whatever it is. And I've got no problem with that being viewed as wisdom. And if I did, it wouldn't matter anyway, right? But I'm going to be talking about another meaning of wisdom, and that is in a spiritual context. And the way I'm talking about wisdom here in a spiritual context is across all of the major wisdom traditions that I'm familiar with, which are Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, in terms of the isms, and then Patanjali and Paramahansa Yogananda and Babaji and Sai Baba and others, great enlightened beings that have been on earth and have talked about this. Okay? So that's kind of the context for what I'm doing here. So let's start talking a little bit about how we acquire knowledge. Well, we acquire knowledge if you hadn't seen a lemon before and all of a sudden you see a lemon in this yellow oblongish thing in front of you. You would engage all five of your senses to one degree or another, depending on the opportunity. You use your vision. You go, a yellow thing. What is that? I don't see many yellow things. There's some yellow squash and stuff, I guess. But what is that yellow thing? Hearing, if you're with someone and they say, and they give that yellow thing a name, they say, that's a lemon. Okay, so you've acquired some information. You may pick it up and touch it, and you feel it's pretty solid. It's got a little bit of roughness on the outside of the skin, so you examine it from that standpoint. You then may take a knife and cut it in half and squeeze a little bit onto your finger or into your mouth and taste it, and you get an impression about what that taste is. And you may smell it also. Has a particular thing. Physiologically, the way this works, each of those five senses are sending what I would call objective information through your nervous system to your brain, where all that information gets processed. And if you're seeing a lemon for the first time, somewhere in your brain, it's making a little compartment that says, this yellow thing is a lemon. It tastes like this, it smells like this, and it feels like this when it's in your hand. And so all of a sudden, you've got a definition of what is now known as a lemon in your mind. And that can be and associated with that are probably some judgments that are formed. You've tasted it, and maybe you don't like something that you view the taste of lemon as acidic or sharp or something, or you taste it as light and pleasant and clean, and you would make that association with other things that you've tasted before in terms of giving context for what you've experienced. Now, I am no brain expert by any stretch of the imagination, and I've talked about this in the most general of terms, and I'm sure if we had an expert on the brain on here that they could expand on that significantly. But I think my concepts are about right. Probably could be, it certainly could be better, okay? So they're about right. And out of that, after the brain processes it, at the end of it, it comes to some conclusions. It's a lemon, okay? It may have likes, it may have dislikes, it may have formed, I'm not really interested in this, or I am interested, I'd love to learn more, how can I use it in cooking, how can I use it in beverages, all that sort of thing, and opinions, and eat or not eat, and that sort of thing, okay? So you've acquired knowledge, you've encountered a lemon for the first time, and this is roughly how the process goes. But there's a whole bunch of problems with acquiring knowledge through our five senses. And this doesn't necessarily apply to a lemon in all cases, but it applies broadly to acquiring knowledge. First of all, as we experience the world, our eyes, our human eyes, experience a very small part of the total light spectrum. There are animals and insects and reptiles that some that have can see segments of the light spectrum that we can't, and they can't see some of ours, and vice versa. So just be aware that we see a limited amount of the light spectrum. And in the episode prior to this, I talked about Barbara Ann Brennan's ability to see the aura or the astral body, the layers of that. And that's because her vision can see a wider range of the light spectrum, among other things. So there's an example of a human that has visual capabilities to see things that others can't. And more advanced spiritual beings, higher levels of consciousness, can do the same things that Barbara does when it comes to the light spectrum. So in acquiring knowledge, our vision is helpful, but it has serious limitations, not the least of which is some prior experience with the brain interpreting visuals that come in, and that's going to be true for all five senses. Hearing, all host of challenges with that. We either hear everything that was said, we understand it, or we don't understand it, we don't ask questions. This comes to things like emotional intelligence capabilities in terms of interacting and anything. But suffice it to say that hearing provides us some maybe misleading information, maybe very appropriate information, difficult to sort out initially, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. And some of the same things happen for touch. Humans have very small differentiations in touch, more gross experience. And I don't mean gross in a negative, but it's rough or it's smooth sort of thing, okay? Taste, that's, as I think you may be aware, I was vice president of marketing at Gallo Winery for 10 years, and we did tastings every night, most every night. And I would taste a wine, and you taste them blind, and I'd taste a wine that on a particular evening I might think it was just wonderful. And the same vintage and varietal tasted 2-3 days later, a week later, a month later, I'd go, wow, I don't like that at all. And there's a host of things that can explain that, tongue chemistry among other things. What did I eat before I came in and all that sort of stuff. So taste is all over. Yes, we taste things, but its accuracy in terms of factual things is just, it ain't perfect. I'll leave it there. Smell. I went out, as I do every morning. I'm up in Prescott, Arizona, and if you're in the neighborhood, stop by. I went out for a hike with my golden retriever and in the national forest, and I was reminded every day that he experiences the world through his nose. He is sniffing this, that, and everything. And sometimes I have to yell at him, come on, catch up, because he gets so intent into things. So his ability to what I'll call examine and experience the odor spectrum, if I can use that word, is far more refined than us humans. And again, that's true for other animals too. So on planet Earth, when it comes to senses, the key thing I want to leave with you is, yes, they are where we bring in inputs about the external world in an attempt to acquire knowledge. But there are significant deficiencies, inaccuracies, challenges with all of that, and what one person experiences, another person experiences, and the knowledge becomes very different. So senses, yes, that's how we primarily acquire knowledge, our vision. We read books, for example, and stuff like that, all of which is important. But the problems get even bigger. The elusive search for truth is about facts. And when we acquire knowledge, okay? You have knowledge. You have facts. Do you have all the relevant facts? You may or may not know that. In most cases, you don't know whether you have all the relevant facts. Are all the facts that you have accurate? Or are they true in some situations but not in others? Don't know. I've got a bunch of facts. Which of them are most important to me, determining that I have a high level of quality knowledge? Will more facts emerge? The answer is yes. What are they going to be? I don't know. When? I don't know. But more facts will emerge. And then there's the whole thing of the brain with facts making choices, interpretations, and forming opinions about the knowledge. And as a result, knowledge is highly subjective. One person's truth is another person's fallacy. And if you want to have an in-your-face experience of that, just look at the political divide in the United States right now. Okay? And yet knowledge, we humans value. It's our way of understanding and navigating the world that we're in. But the point I want to leave with you here is, we make the best with what we've got, but what we've got has major limitations in almost all cases. Even those people who consider themselves to be experts, and I have worked with experts for a long time, I have expert knowledge in this. And they are scary to me in many cases because they think they know it all. And very quickly, in the kind of innovation environment with diversity and everything that we work with, they know some part of it very well, and they know other parts of it not at all. Okay? Now, again, I want to be careful about making generalizations. The key point I want to make here is knowledge is imperfect at best. It's highly subjective. Our brain processes it and all that sort of stuff to form good, bad opinions, all this other sorts of stuff. And it also has a very interesting impact that can, this is an example I've used some time, and this is the first time I've actually tried to visualize it in a PowerPoint slide here. And the way I say it is, two people are standing in a park some distance, and they look in the distance, and they see a German Shepherd. And they see so both are seeing the same stimulus, a German Shepherd running towards them. So the German Shepherd's coming towards them. With that stimulus, that same stimulus, one person decides to flee. The other person with the same stimulus says, "Oh, I want to embrace and, greet this German Shepherd that's running." Well, that's all because the experience of the first person, probably in childhood or something, was very negative. A German Shepherd was very aggressive with them, or somebody they know, and they have fear. The other person grew up with German Shepherds. I grew up with German Shepherds. And They know the kind of dog they are, and they have no fear, and they just want to go, this dog wants to play, I want to play, sort of thing. So, same stimulus, very different choices. So the point I'm trying to make here is that with stimulus, we make choices based upon our personal interpretation and history and how the brain evaluates all the experiences that we've had, okay? We are responsible for the choices we make in response to stimulus. That applies to a German Shepherd coming to you. It applies to somebody saying something to you friendly or with anger. You're responsible for the choices you make because you filter what comes in through your experience in your brain that says, yeah, boy, this person's very animated about it. Boy, and I really agree with them. Or, boy, are they a jerk? Same stimulus, very different response. So knowledge is very personal and very subjective. Again, okay? So there is a better solution to having information to navigate life. And surprise, surprise, while knowledge is subjective, wisdom is objective. Okay? Here's a dictionary definition of intuition. Your intuition is unexplained feelings. That's not too bad. I'm going to give you what I think is the best relevant definition in just a moment, but that's not too bad. We feel something and we're not quite sure what it is. Maybe we haven't felt it before. Okay? Unexplained feelings. Where's it coming from? Where's that coming from? What it's about? Should I trust it? Your intuition is unexplained feelings that something is true. And that's a very important point. Intuition, which is the voice of our soul, talk about that more, is the source of wisdom. Key source of wisdom. Unexplained feelings that something is true. And that's a very powerful dimension of intuition that's captured even in this dictionary non-spiritual definition. Okay? You have a sense that something's true and good. Your intuition is unexplained feelings that something is true even when you have no evidence or proof of it. And that captures another important point. Intuition gives you a deep understanding that something is really, really true with no input from your senses. Zero. Okay? So you let go of all of the issues with inaccuracies and everything about senses. Okay? When you have no evidence or proof of it. And the same dictionary definition said a synonym is sixth sense. They're getting pretty close. They're touching on the edge. Suffice it to say that even this dictionary definition of intuition, which is not related to spirituality, says that intuition is, as a source of wisdom and understanding, sounds like as a beginning point, it's a whole lot better than knowledge, even from what it touches on here. Okay, so let me give you the best definition of intuition that I can put together from what I've studied and read. Okay, wisdom is acquired through intuition. If you know nothing else, know that intuition is the voice of our soul. What is our soul? It is that spark of divinity that's in all of us. In humans, it resides right up here at the base of the medulla oblongata. Okay, that's where our soul resides. Okay, it is that spark of divinity. It is that reflection of God in us. It is our connection to God. Yes, intuition is the voice of our soul. It is that connection to divinity, to God. Okay? Intuition provides a deep inner knowing requiring no inputs from the senses. Zero, none. My experience of intuition is captured in the next sentence. we know with certainty. So it's a deep inner knowing requiring no inputs from our senses that we know with certainty, that I know with certainty. What do I mean by that? Well, when I have a clear, intuitive insight, I know with certainty that it is true more than I know 2 + 2 = 4. That's the level of certainty that I have with an intuitive insight. Continuing, there are levels of intuitive knowing that are associated with the expansion to increasingly higher and more powerful levels of consciousness. Superconsciousness, Christ, and cosmic consciousness. A lot here to get, okay? There are levels of intuition. It isn't like a switch. You go from nothing to everything. No, it doesn't work that way. You wish it might, but it doesn't, okay? And intuition for me is something that I can occasionally call upon. I need to have an understanding. I need to make a decision. And at other times, it's something that lands in my awareness, my inner sense of deep inner knowing. Specifically, no request, in response to no specific request, okay? But there are levels of intuitive knowing associated, and the clarity, the frequency, the power of the insights all increase as we get to higher and more powerful levels of consciousness. And you say, boy, this may be the first time you're hearing that there's higher levels of consciousness and they have specific names. Well, today, most of us have 2 levels of consciousness. What I call waking consciousness, that I'm connecting with you right now, and our subconscious. And you're either aware of your subconscious or your waking conscious, seldom both together, okay? They actually come together in superconsciousness, the next level up. So we have 2 levels of consciousness that we're working with as humans, most of us today, okay? But we can go through a significant and dramatic expansion of our capabilities as we progress stepwise to superconsciousness, Christ consciousness, Jesus level of consciousness, and cosmic consciousness, at which point you achieve enlightenment and graduate from the human kingdom, God-realized being like Yogananda, Jesus, Krishna, Babaji, he's beyond that, Patanjali, others, Paramahansa Yogananda, okay? We all have intuitive potential. It comes when we're born. We have the potential for intuition, but it's undeveloped in most of us. In fact, the vast majority of us, it's undeveloped, to even beginner level. And I consider myself to be in the beginner level. I mean, I do not live my life from super Christ or cosmic consciousness. That I can tell you. I'm progressing. I'm on the path, but got a long ways to go, okay? So we all have intuitive potential, but it's undeveloped in most of us. And the best way to develop intuition is through meditation. The wisdom traditions are exceptionally clear that that is the best method and process for expanding your consciousness and expanding your intuitive capability. So, intuition is the voice of our soul. It's a deep inner knowing requiring no input from our senses. We know with certainty. There are levels of intuitive knowing associated with the expansion to increasingly higher and more powerful levels of consciousness, like super, Christ, and cosmic, not like those 3 levels. If you want to know more about them, by the way, the podcast, the Wisdom Inspired Life podcast, many of those episodes deal with this in far more detail than I will deal, for the most part, in the YouTube channel. We all have intuitive potential, but it's undeveloped in most of us. The best way to develop intuition is through meditation. Okay? So, sharp contrast between knowledge and wisdom in the spiritual sense that I'm using it here. To know something with deep inner knowing and to know it with certainty, and that it's accurate for everyone involved in a situation and it's the right and best solution for everybody involved, is a claim that knowledge could never make with any credibility, but can be made when we acquire wisdom. So, when I talk about living a wisdom-inspired life, not a knowledge-inspired life, but a wisdom-inspired life, this is the compass. This is the guiding mechanism, if you will, through which we gain knowing to help us make decisions. And very interestingly, when it comes to this Wisdom Inspired Life YouTube channel, when I first had the idea of doing this, it came on like a rush. And as I was present with it, my intuitive voice could not have been clearer. This is what I am meant to do. And whenever I think about sitting down and doing an episode to share with you, my heart is filled with joy. I'm inspired. And with certainty, I know this is a major part of what I'm supposed to be doing at this chapter in my life. Okay? So, living a wisdom-inspired life is living with intuition, soul guidance, that you can trust with certainty. Okay, you got it. These are a few of the words that might be associated with wisdom. Certainly, God is at the heart of it. Intuition is the voice of our soul. It's that spark of divinity within all of us. It is our connection to start hearing God. But wisdom is always about compassion, caring, joy, consciousness, spiritual meditation, deep knowing, these, and love. Okay? So if you want wisdom, wisdom is going to involve all of this. If you want to live a wisdom-inspired life, you're going to be embarking on a journey that involves joy, caring, kindness, consciousness, growth, spiritual, knowing, compassion. Not bad, huh? Not bad. So, a wisdom-inspired life is what this YouTube channel is named, and the podcast, and what I'm trying to share with you along this journey. Of course, if you want to know more, you can go to mywisdominspiredlife.com, listen to the podcast there, learn more about books and all that sort of stuff. So, greatly appreciate you being with me on the journey today, and I look forward to continuing the journey with you.